Good evening and welcome to this lecture on skyboxes and how to set up a skybox inside of the Unreal Engine. So this will really be just a very short video just discussing and describing what the skybox is and how we can access them, because they're not overly easy to find in the Unreal Engine. So what we have at the moment is a black screen, and this is purely because we don't have any lights or sky or background or anything at all going on at the moment. So just to quickly explain what a skybox is, one way we can look at this is if we press Ctrl and N, this will give us the option for a new level. And if we just quickly go to the default level, the skybox is the section you see in the background here. So everything in the clouds, the sun and everything is controlled with the skybox. Now this basically is a sphere which encompasses the entire map that we have at the moment based on the scaling that we have. And this can be seen if we go over here to the world outliner and select the sky sphere. I keep saying box. A skybox is just one way that we can approach this. So it used to be done this way a lot more, that you'd just get a single cube and you would map each face with a different part of the sky. The approach used here is very similar, but it's using a sky sphere instead. So we can see what this is. So if we select the sky sphere and hit F, this will focus in on the sky sphere. And we can see that really all it is just, as I said, a single sphere with a texture mapped onto the inside of it. So if we find any of these objects and hit F on them again, that will bring us back into the map so we can see everything. So hopefully now that makes a bit more sense on what it is. Now the next thing to mention is that a lot of the standard things that you want to use in the game, so if you're mapping a level out or setting up the start location for a player, most things like that can be found in this panel over here, the modes panel. And we can see that here we've got empty actors available, the player start, which is going to be an important component, cubes, and you can simply drag things out from here and place them into the world. One thing you don't find over here, unfortunately, is a skybox. It isn't one of their standard assets that they provide for you to use on the simple drag and drop method like this. However, anything that we find here, especially in the default maps, anything that we find here can be found inside of the engine without you needing to download any other content. So that is good to know, because what that means we can do is we can just track down how to find this sky sphere. What I'm going to do first of all is I will just go back down to my maps folder and open up our main folder and open up our main map. We don't need to save anything there, and this is so that when we start adding things in, we can do this straight into the map that we are interested in. So to find the sky sphere, because it is part of the default engine content, the way we can find this is by going down to this small panel over here where it says view options and opening that. So at the moment we're only showing folders, so this is our local folders, the ones that we're working in. Now on top of that we also have access to the localized assets, the developer folders, the plugin content and the engine content. And as I said, the skybox is part of the standard engine content. So all we need to do is tick that and we'll get some new folders appear over here. Now obviously you may not know automatically which part of the engine the content you're looking for will be in. So for instance, when I was first trying to find this, the approach I had to take was to tick all of them. And then simply with that done, what we can do is in the search bar over here on the search folders, I knew that I was looking for the skybox, so you just type in the word sky. We can see that two options have been highlighted, and you just simply go through them in order. However, luckily, the thing that we're looking for is the BP sky sphere, so that's right here. But over here as well, I'll just quickly show you this folder. This has a lot of extra textures and HDR maps and things that we can add in to make the skybox fancier. So they're here if you wanted to use them too. However, all we'll need is the BP sky sphere. And to use this, we simply drag this in, and there we go. We now have our sky sphere ready. And it looks a little bit different, but that's purely because of the way that the lighting's set up and the time of day which we're showing. And all of that can be edited very easily. Now, this doesn't really matter, but just because I like to keep things a bit tidier, I'm going to also go over to the location of the sky sphere, and I'm just going to zero out all of the axes so that it's directly central to the world. And then with that done, we don't need to see the folder options anymore, so we're going to go back down to the view options, and we're just going to untick the show content and then remove the search for the sky sphere. And then if we click on any of these, the content over there will disappear as well. Okay, so we're now left with our sky sphere, which is looking pretty nice. You may have noticed the other one, as I've said, was blue, and you may have noticed that in the preview videos and things from the other project that I've already demonstrated that we'll be going through, I've left my sky sphere as orange. I actually quite like this kind of sunset orange colour that we've got going on. So I'm going to leave mine like this, but I will show you how to change this as well. So what we can do is, if we look to the right hand side, you'll notice this is called, as I said, the BP sky sphere, and this is a completely editable blueprint. So we can open this up, and if you wanted to play about, there are a lot of different variables that you can go into here. You can see how this has been set up, and you can start playing about with things in the blueprint if you wanted to add or remove things from this. So this is really cool. Now, I'm not going to go into that part of the sky sphere. What I will be describing are the variables which have been made public, which means they're very easy to access and we can edit these from the inspector. So the sort of things that we have access to, we can change the sun brightness, and this doesn't add any actual brightness to the game. So if we add a model in, we'll just go to the models quickly, and I'm just going to add the player. So we can see here that the player ship is still completely black. This is kind of a fake brightness that we're adding, and if we focus on the sun in the background, we can add this up to 500 from 100, and we can see the model again still isn't affected, but the sun and the glare from it is being increased. So that's what that figure's doing. I'm just going to leave that down at 100, that should be fine. And then if we did have some clouds in the map, we can change the speed of the clouds, the opacity of them, things like that can be changed. And this will be one of the most important things we have over here. So this is the colours determined by sun position. So we don't currently have a sun, and that is the reason we're getting this darker version of the skybox. If we untick that, then it's going to go back to its default blue. So if you wanted the default blue, then that will be one way to get that back. But then if we do have this ticked, what we can then also change is we've got the horizon fall off, which isn't very noticeable right now because we don't have any sun. So we can see we can change that, and that will not affect the skybox. However, we do have options to select the sun height. So again, if we watch this representation of the sun over here, if we drag this down, oh, that was a bit fast, try and slowly drag that down, we can see the sun going down the screen. We also see the skybox reacting to this as well. So we now have a nighttime kind of scene going on, to the point where we can have a complete nighttime star scene. So that's again really cool, really quick changes we can make. But that can be completely reverted again, and we can ignore that if we go back to removing the colours being determined by the sun. And now if we play about with the horizon fall off, this will be a bit more obvious now what's happening. So I'll just put that back to 0 as it was. And that's not looking good, so I'm just going to turn that back to the night time. And obviously we can do this the other way, so we can make this lighter as well. So we can go through essentially the whole of the day cycle. So I'm going to put this back to 0. I'll leave that as it was, and that's fine for me. So I think this, hopefully you can see you have a lot of different options just within the standard blueprint SkySphere that we provided. I'm going to leave the player model in the game. Feel free to do the same yourself if you wanted to, as this will be used for the demonstration in the next lecture when we begin looking at the lights. So that will wrap up the skybox for now, and I will see you in the next lecture.